Welcome back to Skywise Observations. The current time is 2 p.m. on this Saturday afternoon, August 1st, 2026. And yes, we are under overcast skies as we have been all day. It is currently sprinkling out here. The deck is just a little bit wet. It actually began, in between 1 p.m. and 1:15 p.m. That's when it actually began. Now, since my earlier recordings, as if you have been following along with today's recordings, or videos, or episodes, whatever the case you might consider this content to be, well, I have been not only, of course, editing together, or no, I haven't even really done that, just the uploading of content. But in the meantime, I have been watching the Idiot Box. And well, before I even go into that, let me make this statement and declaration as what I am to present just through thoughts of mine, as that is what I have been doing, is a lot of thinking and attempting to put certain pieces of a possible puzzle together. I am not out in any way, shape, or form trying to prove anything. I am just going to present some possible evidences based on factual observations. Okay? And it pertains to, well, the occurrences that took place this morning. Once again, I am not a believer in coincidence nor chance. And there's an aircraft that is flying overhead that I can hear. So anyways, I am going to attempt to put some pieces together of evidences, observational evidences, and see what kind of a conclusion we might end up with. So this morning, as I am recording, and while I am recording, just like in the past, to where I just so happen to be recording and I capture this tree snapping and falling during some gusty winds. Caught it right on camera, right? Well, once again, and this happened a couple of times. Once again, this occurred this morning, in which it was, well, right back in here, which is not too visible to be seen, but this is that bent over tree of which snapped this morning. Okay, and you can see how close by it is, and not too much further away is the feeding tree. Basically, in between all this area is the feeding grounds. Okay, and it was, once again, this tree here that snapped while I was recording. So I go out a little bit later to find whatever the source was that made that snap, of which I had recorded earlier, and eventually come across that tree with evidence that that was what had broken and come down. And of course, I provide those evidences within that recording. And that is where, well, the possible finding of footprints, very large footprints, around that broken limb was discovered. And let me tell you again, I am no expert in it, in the field of, well, I'm very familiar with tracking, okay? But for what I found and what I do know through, well, just the Bigfoot stuff out there. And, I've been around long enough in life to where, oh yeah, I've gone down the rabbit holes of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Yowie, and all the rest. So coming across something like that was very strange and very hard to accept it as being factual, even though I came across a couple of them. Yeah, more aircraft going overhead. Doubtful the microphone is picking up on that, but so there is possible aspects that yes, maybe some footprints were found, very large ones at that. So as far as the limb itself, so I've been thinking about that because there was just something that was nagging at the back of my mind about that limb. That limb came straight down. Now you would, okay, so just imagine this is a bent over tree, and if I was out there in the woods right now speaking on this topic, I would be showing what I mean, but well, as far as the furthest branches on that limb, there wasn't a whole lot of damage. So with it breaking and having the furthest branches at the end of the limb come down first, there would have been a lot more damage than what I had observed. And not only that, the end of the broken limb would have actually come back this way as it came down rather than straight down as I observed it to have been. Okay? And furthermore, if it had actually been wind that came through, the branch or limb would have shifted like this, snapped, and possibly landed at an angle. It was not. It was right straight out and straight down. I also noticed bark that was missing, as there was moss covered bark all around one section of that limb on the ground, right nearby the break of the limb. So it could have been something that had reached up, pulled down, and while doing so, had stripped a section of bark away. I'm just theorizing here, okay? But, and I want to make mention as well that whether it's been, well, I think about a year ago, maybe a little longer, to where it was quite often that I was hearing single wood knocks out here coming from the trees, and actually quite a distance away. And this occurred quite often, and I actually had made mention of that within a couple of past recordings. And once again, a year and a half ago. I have not heard any wood knocks. And once again, those were single wood knocks that I would hear. Very audible though. And a lot of times they would occur as I was out here on the balcony. And it'd only be like one single knock, and then you wouldn't hear anything thereafter. Sometimes it would be a single knock, and then quite a few minutes later, another one might come about. I don't know if I actually had recorded any of those or not. After all, I have thousands of videos out there now. But there's something else. So, ever since the 1970s, one of the theories over Bigfoot was, well, maybe they were some form of alien that traveled here. Okay? But now, there's also been the theory that, well, maybe they are an interdimensional being. Now, this is where I'm going to go just a little strange. So, the other night, last night, was it? And the night before, I've been following these rings or waves. Yeah, waves going all the way across the sky. And then right up in this location of the sky, right up in here, was what appeared as like an elliptical hole or portal, or even possibly some kind of a cloaked mothership, and which the waves were emanating from it. Okay, once again, just theorizing, but I have provided all of these observations. I have recorded them and shared them. So here's just another wild scenario through imaginative thought. So what if this was actually up in here, some kind of a portal, and some type of huge hominid creature had dropped through, and this is the same, okay, now watch, right up in here is where that elliptical, I don't even, sight, there we go, the elliptical sight up in the sky, right up in there. So we take that location there, and we come right straight down, okay, and right down at ground level is this bent over tree which broke. So could have something very heavy, another jet aircraft coming over. So could something very heavy have dropped and landed on that and snapped it. And therefore, what I had shown as far as all of the vegetation, the weeds, how it had all been like matted down. So maybe it snapped, it rolled off, got up, started walking around maybe. I don't know. Just once again, a little bit of imagination taking place there. Of a, it's, an imaginary scenario. Okay, let's go just a bit further. A little bit more disturbing. So, weeks back, there was a couple of scenarios to whereas one, I don't know if it was morning, yeah, I believe it was one morning, I was headed out to the feeding grounds, and upon the entry or the entrance of the path into the tree line, there lies a Baltimore Oriole, one of the birds that, well, they're no longer coming up anymore. They finally taken off, but they stuck around a whole lot longer this year than what I've ever witnessed before. in previous years. But anyways, a dead Baltimore Oriole right at the entry of the footpath of the tree line leading down to the feeding grounds. And I thought, well, maybe it was a cat, a gifting, such as what cats will do. I'll bring dead mice, dead birds, or whatever up to the doorstep, or what have you. And the thing is this bird, which the corpse ended up completely disappearing. I don't know if a cat took off with it and made use of it later on or whatever. But anyways, when I first came across it, it appeared as though it had its neck broke, as one of the head was facing a different direction than the rest of the body. A couple days later, give or take, out there at feeding station number 3, there was the remains on top of the patio block structure out there, the remains of a black fox squirrel. Now these are two species of animals of which I was recording previously, was very fond of. Yeah. And, well, this black fox squirrel, there was not much left to it, and it looked like it had been stripped, leaving its, well, basically, its fur, well, leaving its skin and hair, fur, whatever, tail, legs, and head, to where the whole, oh man, I'm having trouble with my thoughts now. The whole torso of the body was stripped away, and everything else, including the guts. Sorry to be so descriptive, but you know, I gotta be realistic. And was left on top of, once again, that patio block structure. Again, seemingly as though it was left there as a gift. And once again, the thoughts were that a cat had done it. Well, maybe not. Because once again, just recently I have had to bury a cat. And although it has been, as I have stated in quite a few past recordings, this cat Snot, which always seemed to be quite ill, I had suspected had died because it came up missing. And through, well, of course, the stench of decomposition, I was able to locate it and thereafter buried the remains. But that cat, and here comes another aircraft or jet. Of course, we can't record any of these because they're up over all this yuck for the most part. But once again, the carcass, Snot's head, well, it would look like it had its neck broken, as its head was literally looking over its back. And that's how I found it. So now I'm kind of curious, maybe the squirrel, before it had been stripped apart, might have had a broken neck. So what would that imply? A predator with intelligence and killing by means of a pattern. And what? Gifting, possibly, to get my attention? Because here comes something more. Well, within just a recent recording out there at, once again, feeding station number 3, I had found basically the remains of what I thought was either tennis ball or some other type of rubber style ball that was on top of that patio block structure. Well, actually, on the concrete slab that's connected to that patio block structure, and it was just sitting there. Hmm. And in that same location, I'd also found a rather clean glass drop bead or drop glass bead, of which I've been collecting from that site. So when you add all these together, man, it sure seems like an awful lot of possible proof that there might be something out here. Now, once again, this is just, you know, theorizing completely, based on factual based on observations of fact. But it's strange pieces to put together, and it's a much stranger outcome once you see a possible picture of how those pieces were placed together. And yeah, sorry, this is a long explanation. It's already been, well, quite a mind draining day, and it is a day of, you know, lethargy, a day of relaxation, if you will. It's a very pleasant day. I'm enjoying this day, so I don't mind kind of rambling on almost aimlessly, but of course, there's a point to all this. But the point remains a mystery. Yeah. If you find this at all interesting, and if you actually made it to the end of this rambling style content, if you have any thoughts, yeah, let me know. If you followed along and you have seen these so-called possible evidences that I have applied or have recorded and shared at least, go ahead, throw me a comment. I'd rather enjoy it. I record a lot of strange stuff because a lot of strange stuff happens to occur and has for many years now. I mean, even within my community postings, I've got images of, stuff from the trees. My very first recording that I ever posted was of a dryad or that of a tree spirit, you know. I'm a strange duck surrounded by geese. I don't fit in. That's okay. I don't mind it at all. And I enjoy my show and tell time, just like I have throughout my whole life. This is just yet another episode of just that. And with that, I shall bid you a fond farewell for now and ask you to take care. Try to have yourselves a great one. We'll get together once again at some given point in time back here on this flip side of reality. But until that given point in time, as always, we end with Skywise out.